Hello, everyone, and welcome. I'm Kristen Boswell, Senior Vice President of Brand and Portfolio Marketing at Hub International, and I am so excited to bring everyone together today for this very special Moxie event. For those of you who are new to Moxie, welcome. We are so glad to have you here. Moxie is a community of visionary rebels and go-getters in risk, insurance, benefits, and wealth. We host today's event to discuss topics that help you harness your unique strengths, empower you with knowledge and actionable insights, and offer you an opportunity to connect with women who are making change in their communities and industries. Today also marks a very special milestone for Moxie. Just 2 years ago at Risk World in San Diego, we launched Moxie for the very first time. And what started as a small idea has grown into a year-round national community for women. Beyond our quarterly virtual events, we now have local chapters in locations like Tulsa, Denver, Kansas City, and British Columbia, Canada. So if you're in one of those locations, your local Moxie community is ready and waiting for you. So to be sure to check those out and look out for more local chapters in the future. You can stay up to date on everything Moxie by visiting our website, hubinternational.com/Moxie, and clicking Join Moxie, and you'll receive invites to our virtual events and any in-person events happening in your area. Today, we're going to talk about breaking boundaries. And at Hub, breaking boundaries isn't just a phrase we say, it's a mindset and a way of acting. It's about rethinking what's possible, not only in business, but in leadership, in risk, and in ourselves. The women here today embody that idea every single day. Now, I could not be more excited to hand things off to our moderator for today. If anyone knows what it means to be a boundary breaker, it is Mary Kaiser. She has managed a team and a $5 million book of business while raising 3 daughters, all under the age of 3.5. And this year, she was recognized as an elite woman by our Business Insurance America. And if that doesn't say boundary breaker, I don't know what does. She is also Hub's National Food and Beverage Practice Leader and the perfect guide for our conversation ahead. So please, Mary, take it away.
Thank you so much, Kristen, and thank you to every one of you for being here today. I want to take a moment to let that land. 2 years ago, Moxie did not exist, and today we are having a conversation that's redefining what leadership looks like as this industry. That is what breaking boundaries look like in real time. Our topic today, Breaking Boundaries, Paving the Way for Everyone, is one that's deeply personal to me, and I suspect to everyone listening. Because the women who pave the way don't just advance their own careers, they clear the path, they prop the door open, they turn around and reach back. And that is exactly what today's conversation is about. We are joined today by 3 extraordinary leaders who have done just that in industries, organizations, and rooms that didn't always make it easy. I am honored to have them here. Let's start by having each one of you introduce yourselves, tell us who you are, what you do, and what gives you energy when you're running on empty. So let's start with you, Heather, if you don't mind.
Yeah. Hi, my name's Heather Harrison, and I'm the Senior Risk Manager for Wesco Distribution. I've been in the insurance industry for right under 20 years. I started on the carrier side where I spent almost a decade and spent 5 years on the broker side. And what gives me energy when I'm low is normally snacks and some caffeine.
Love it. Nikisha?
Hi, thanks, Mary. I'm Nikisha Watkins. I'm currently the Director of Risk Management and Insurance at Cornell University. I've been in the industry in a combination of roles for 17 plus years. And when I think about what gives me energy, it would be music.
Perfect. Kara?
Hello and welcome. I'm Kara Wardell. I'm the Senior Director of Risk Management at Staples.
Thank you. Welcome to, and Kara, what gives you energy?
There. Yeah, so I think, being in the founding state of Dunkin' Donuts, I'll start with a medium cold brew with 2 creams. But seriously, what gives me energy when I'm running on empty is people. Like seeing my team work through something tough or watching them grow and gain confidence. And, that shared momentum really refuels me as much as caffeine.
Awesome. Well, welcome to all of you. We're so excited to hear from you today. So let's start at the beginning of what it really means to break boundaries. And that often starts with taking a very big bet on yourself. Can you share a moment in your career where you made a decision that scared you, where the outcome wasn't guaranteed, but you did it anyway? And what happened and what did it teach you about risk? Why don't we start with you, Kara?
So I think, one of my riskiest decisions I actually made was later in my career. So I'm 30 plus years in risk management, have worked on the carrier side, the broker side, and now in risk management for more than 2 decades. And, it was well established. I knew the industry inside and out, strong team, credibility, lots of certainty. And I chose to move to Staples almost 2 years ago. And what did that mean to me was like giving up what was familiar and taking a bet on myself and putting myself in a new environment with a new business and a new scale and new expectations and new leadership. And there was no guarantee that it would work. And at that stage of my career, staying put would have been a much safer option. So I think what that taught me about risk is that growth doesn't just stop because you're comfortable or you're experienced. Sometimes that biggest risk is standing still. And so you have to bet on yourself. It isn't always about chasing something new, but trusting in yourself, in your judgment, in your skills, in your leadership. And that can translate even when the outcome's not guaranteed.
Yeah, it's like leap and the net will appear kind of thing.
Exactly. And it did.
That's awesome. How about you, Nikisha?
I would say one moment that really defined my career was realizing that risk management wasn't a title I held. It was how I naturally operated. Um, for most people don't know, I spent 12 years in the military. So I would say a lot of that, I would say, helped me shape um, risk management. And I think when I transition into corporate environments, insurance, and education, it it was how I naturally operated, right? So I was already doing these things. It was just transitioning into, I would say, a different exposure. In the Army, I think about risk management wasn't optional. It was embedded in every decision, mission planning, personal safety, operational readiness. It was never theoretical. But for example, when I look at higher ed, where risk is often um, diffuse or conscious driven, I realized that hey, this is something that I had always done. So I would say it was exciting, right? I think the other piece is stepping into leadership roles where the outcome wasn't guaranteed, was intimidated, but was grounded. But what grounded me was the truth. I understand this is what I did. This is what I do. Not just professionally, but instinctively as well.
Mm-hmm. I love that.
So thanks. Yeah.
How about you, Heather?
Yeah. So one of the biggest risks I took was when I came to Wesco, the client side from the carrier and broker sides of the business. The year before I started, Wesco had acquired their biggest competitor, Annixter. And so Annixter was actually slightly bigger than Wesco. So they more than doubled overnight. And then we're experiencing explosive growth. When I joined the company, Wesco before I joined, they didn't have a risk management department and they didn't have a risk manager. So it was a new role that was not defined. But while I was confident with all of the things I knew about being a risk manager, what I could anticipate, but there was still a lot undefined. And I knew that I was being brought in to define the role, to, set up new processes and our risk management department for a huge company. So it was, I guess I didn't look at it. I knew it would be challenging, but I like a challenge. So I was excited about it, but it was definitely very risky for me. But rewarding. It's been the highlight of my career so far.
That's awesome. Yeah, I can relate to that. When I came over to Hub, I was building basically a practice from scratch. And I love it because it's like I get to put my stamp on it and it's a legacy thing for me.
Yeah.
And I think that's what inspired me to do to make the jump. But it's super intimidating because you're just like, there's a lot of eyes on me and
Yeah.
I'm building something that I don't know, I don't know how this is going to be received. So I can absolutely relate.
Yeah.
So when we talk about mentorship and sponsorship, they get talked about a lot, but they're not the same thing. I believe mentors advise and sponsors advocate. In your experience, which has made a bigger difference in your career, and how do you show up for others? Let's start with you, Nikisha, on this question.
So I would say sponsorship changed my career.
Mm,
Mentors helped me grow. Sponsors helped me being seen. Sponsors advocated for me when I wasn't in the room.
mm,
Um, Sponsors helped me be seen, especially when I was entering spaces where my military background or industry transition did not match the traditional mold. So today I'm intentional about being both. As a mentor, I help others understand that risk management is broader than insurance. It's strategy, it's culture, it's leadership. As a sponsor, I put names forward and say, they're ready. Let's take a risk. For those without a mentor, I would say start by showing curiosity and preparation. The most effective mentorships doesn't start with, will you mentor me? They start
mm.
with meaningful conversations and earning trust.
That is so true. I totally agree with that. Kara, for someone in the room, because I know you have a lot of mentees, for someone in the room who doesn't have a mentor, what advice do you have in trying to find a mentor? And then how do you make sure that the mentorship is fruitful for both the mentee and the mentor?
Yeah, it's a great question. And I think you have to take a risk and put yourself out there and be present and ask people, be honest and say, listen, I'm looking for somebody that can help me. I respect what you've done in this company or in your career. Make sure you know a little bit about the person that you're trying to connect with, and just say, I would love to just be able to have a coffee with you. I call it coffee with Kara, right? Well, can I have a coffee with Kara and just talk to you and understand you? And I think started at that level of understanding how that other person built their career and be curious about how they did it. Not to say that you need to follow it directly, but just learn the nuggets from that conversation and then ask, you have to put yourself out there and be vulnerable. Can we do this again? Or, I have a project that I'm working on that I have to present to a new audience. Could you tell me, like, who do you think would be best that I could get some feedback on before I present that? So I think my advice is to know a little bit about what you're looking for in a mentor, understand a bit about that person, be very curious in their background, and be willing to ask for help. And just say, if you're not the right person, who else would you recommend that I can get to know? And be authentic.
Yes, I love that. I've found that sometimes it just happens naturally too. When you go to the same person asking for advice, they kind of take you under their wing. And I think people, when you ask for help, they really want and are really inspired by people who are asking questions and asking for help. Like, there's not a lot of people that do that. So I think you're setting yourself apart too as a potential mentee. And I think that the responsibility is really on the mentee in a lot of cases to keep the relationship up. I think that's the key part of mentoring is like, when I mentor people, I'm going to let them kind of steer the ship in terms of cadence and and follow-ups and meeting for coffee. Like, I want the mentee to really take that responsibility, and I will be there 100% for them. But I think that's a really good way to be successful in a mentorship situation.
Right. And it doesn't have to be somebody within your organization, either, in the finance or the legal or the risk. Sometimes having cross-pollination with other teams actually broadens and opens up new doors for you and lets you see different perspectives and understand how others talk and what's important to them. And then also, you go to a RIMS meeting, your local RIMS chapter, talk to the risk managers there and, ask, and hey, if I ever have a question on something, can I give you a call?
Yeah.
All they're going to say is, of course, and, make that call and always follow up.
Totally. Nikisha, many of the women in this room have been the only woman or one of very few in a meeting, on a team, or in a leadership role. What was that like for you, and how did you navigate it? Did it make you want to prove something, or did it make you want to change the room itself?
So I think for me, this is nothing new. I've often been I would say, the only woman in the room, whether it was been on the military side, but even when I first came into the industry. Um, so this is not, I would say, it's been a surprise. I think early on when I did this, I felt like that I tried to prove I belong, for example. But then I think as I really started to, something more powerful came out of me. I learned more and I networked. I already did belong.
Mhm.
So, and that's when I learned pretty much, on the room, I belong there. I figured out that, okay, I have all these men in the room. It's not about competition, but it is about me knowing, understanding, knowing that I also belong in the room.
Mhm.
I stopped kind of, would say, shrinking, overqualifying my statements, and I started speaking with confidence, that came from preparation, perspective, and experience. That shift changed everything, not just for me, but how others engaged with me moving forward.
I love to hear that. Do you feel like, this is kind of an off the cuff question, but do you feel like fake it till you make it is something that is like, do you give that advice, or do you say that you should be more vulnerable and not fake it, just admit that you don't know what you're doing if you don't know what you're doing?
I think being authentic, definitely not faking it till you make it. The one thing I would say about risk managers, part of our job is asking questions.
Mhm.
So I always feel like I don't have to be the smartest in the room, but that's how we get to the answers and the decision making in how we do our jobs every day. We ask questions. We're very intuitive. We have to be vulnerable, right? So I just would say, be your authentic self. Take a risk, like Kara mentioned. Take a risk. That's what this job is about. And just not, I think, letting anyone intimidate you in the room, because you do belong.
Love that. Heather, the theme today is paving the way for everyone, not just women. Talk to us about a time when you were the one who opened a door for someone else, for a team, or for a whole group of people who came after you. What did you do, and why did you do it?
Yeah, so Wesco has something called a finance development leadership program, and it's where we hire a group of recent college graduates that have finance degrees, and we put them in a 2-year rotation where for 8 months at a time, they are sitting in different finance departments, and risk management is a finance department. So I get an opportunity to work with fresh college graduates where sometimes I'm their first rotation, and this is also their first corporate job that they've ever had. So it's an opportunity to, I mean, every time it's an opportunity to open doors, have them in meetings where they normally wouldn't be invited. While risk management is probably not their last stop because they're finance majors. It still gives them, we work with every department in the company. It gives them a huge, I think, start, especially at a company of our size where we have so many people, so many departments. It gives them visibility that if you were just starting and you'd just be in your own cubicle or working just on your own team within this large organization. But it's pretty easy with our job because we do work with all of the different departments to introduce them, add them into meetings and renewal meetings. Even with our broker partners, I'll add them into our meetings. And I do think it not only does it help explain to them what risk management does, because not everyone always knows, even in a company of our size. And I've been running the department for almost 5 years. We still run into people. They're like, "Oh, what does risk management do?" So it gives us another person out there that can help explain what we do, someone that will semi understand how insurance applies and view different risks, in whatever department they end up in. So,
do you find that giving these people visibility, I mean, do you feel like it elevates their opportunity to advance, having visibility and being in the rooms that they may not have had opportunity to be in before?
Well, absolutely. And also when, word gets around at companies, if you're doing a good job in risk management and, maybe not doing what you would be doing, you're doing something different in every department or every team that you end up being on. But word gets around on your work ethic, how you treat people, the job that you do. I am a big believer in sponsoring people, and I don't call it sponsoring when I'm doing it, but just when someone does a good job, you tell others, when you're talking about them, when you see an opportunity, like we were just talking about, to mentor someone, like these new employees are a perfect example of how easy it is to do both of those things. Just in the normal day to day, when you're helping them, you're mentoring them, helping them become better at their job, or even just small things that you might notice that you can, maybe you should take some advanced Excel, classes or something, but just to help guide them. Yeah.
How about you, Kara? Do you have any? Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I was just going to say, to build on with Heather, like it really sounds familiar to me, right? It's taking that time to be intentional when you're building your team, right? I have a very young team of 3 people that have graduated college within the last 12 months. And, I think that's how I opened a door for them. I know I could teach risk management, confident in myself and my senior team that we can teach them that, but you can't teach them how to be honest and hardworking and curious. Those are skills that do well, as Nikisha said, as a risk manager. Those are inherent. Those are, you either have it or you don't, and you can teach them everything else. And I think that the way that you keep them is really, thank them for what they do. Notice the little things, whether it's good or bad. Take that extra moment to make sure that you appreciate what they're doing, and that you take the time to teach them. Don't just say, "Oh, I'm just going to go fix it." I'm going to actually understand it. And then I think, Heather, what I heard you say, it's what I try to do too, is really make that connective tissue, right? Let them understand what risk management, how we fit into the greater organization, and give them that visibility, right? Maybe there's a call on a workers' comp process with the HR team. Most finance folks, because we have rotations on our team too, don't get access to HR. Well, let's get them in front of them. Let's them understand what else they do. Getting them in a meeting with an actuary, right? I mean, I tell them it's going to take you a couple years until you really understand what these actuaries are doing. But the more you hear it, the more you understand it, the more you ask questions. So I think it's just opening those little doors and letting them sit in and have some learning by osmosis, and really trying to figure out, how does this connect? How does the bigger organizational universe operate? And then once you understand the bigger organization, then you can, they'll do better, because they'll start adapting to what the other groups want. And the more you can be a resource for other teams and do it in a way that that other team understands you, that you're speaking their language, that you're giving them the information they need, the more credible you become, and those doors start opening for them on their own.
I love that. We have time for a couple of questions before we close here. So the next question I have is around imposter syndrome. My question is, do you believe in imposter syndrome as a whole? And if you do, when have you felt it, and how did you get out of feeling like an imposter, and what advice would you give to someone who might feel like an imposter in a position or in the room with a group of people? Why don't we start with Heather on that question?
Yeah, I don't know that I've phrased it as imposter syndrome. It normally, to me, it just feels like horrible anxiety. That's what it felt like, right? And so how I worked through it was it because it's in your thoughts, but it's also that feeling of anxiety, and you have to capture those thoughts that are telling you like that you aren't enough, and then replace it with a truth. I have everything it takes to be successful. I am exactly where I belong. And then the feeling, you have to rename it. Like it's not anxiety, it's excitement. I'm excited to be here. That feeling, that's a good feeling, because it means I'm growing. You need to be uncomfortable to grow. So it's really what I used to help myself.
That. Anyone else care to answer that one?
So I will say, yes, I felt it, but I'm like Heather, I don't know if I call it imposter syndrome. I would definitely call it anxiety. And I think it's normal, especially when you're entering into new industries or new leadership spaces, right? But I would say what helped shift my internal dialogue from do I belong here is, what value do I bring to the room? How I look at risk management and the job we do as collaborating and bringing stakeholders together to make decisions about whatever your organization's mission is. So I always take it from that approach. And I would say my advice from that is prepare deeply, speak early, be confident, right? And remember, you earn that table at the seat. You earn your seat at the table, so use it.
Yeah. See, for me, I'm like imposter syndrome. Maybe I'm just like overconfident, but I'm like, I've never felt that way. I'm always like, well, somebody saw something in me to be here, so I'm gonna just wing it and hope for the best, because obviously there's a reason I'm here. And if I don't get invited back, maybe that's where that's where I should feel a little weird. But I don't know. I think it's an interesting concept. Now, when we talk about, I think we should end this with one piece of advice. And I think all of you have probably amazing years of experience that could give some really good advice. So we've talked about risk taken. We've talked about boundaries and doors being opened and boundaries being broken. If you could leave everyone with one piece of advice, one thing that you wish you knew at the start, or wish you had known at the start, what would it be? So let's start with Kara.
I think it's that you don't have to be ready and perfect and have an impeccable pedigree and everything, all these initials after your name. You just have to be willing. and you have to work hard and you have to be curious. Maybe early on I spent, a lot of time thinking about that. Well, maybe if I had one more year, they'd take me a little bit more credible, or maybe I need somebody else's permission to do something. No, growth happens when you say yes to something. We talked about uncomfortable. That's that pit in your stomach. That's like, even coming on a panel like that's like taking that deep breath in and saying, I can do this. Like, they asked me to do this for a reason, right? And then just getting those negative thoughts out and just speaking from your heart, and you're guiding, sharing with what your authentic self is. And you don't have to be fully prepared to grow. Just stay curious. You're going to figure it out along the way. And, most doors open not because you check every single box. It's because you stepped forward and you walked into that room. And if you walk into that room, not many people do that. And you have to just walk forward. And so again, you don't have to be ready and perfect. Everything doesn't have to be aligned. Just be willing and be vulnerable, and you'll do well.
I love that. How about you, Nikisha? What piece of advice do you have?
Trust your judgment, own your experience, own the room. And I would say step forward with confidence. And the one thing that I could say, and once you're in the room, hold the door open for others. That's how we create lasting change.
Love that. All right, Heather, last piece of advice.
Yeah. So for me, I wish I would have known earlier how powerful the way you talk to yourself is. And you know what? I feel like I'm almost unstoppable whenever I tell myself I'm unstoppable, right? The way I speak to myself is I would never want anyone else to hear, because you have to be your own biggest fan. You have to be, that is, I think, one of the things that builds confidence, right? Like, look how awesome you did on that. Like, you don't say it out loud, but you say it to yourself. Like, I can't believe I just did that. I've never done something like that before. I wish I would have understand how important that self-talk is.
Yeah.
And Heather, you say that I was traveling this week, and I was entering an elevator with a gentleman, and I saw him kind of like pacing back and forth. And I kind of felt like there was something important that was going to go on. And he gets in the elevator, and I'm sure he didn't realize he said it, but he goes, "You've got this. You can do this today." And I was like, "You do. You have it." Like, I was like, "You go get it." Like, he was so like ready for it, but he gave himself that pep talk, and I'm like,
yeah,
I
absolutely.
love it. And it put me in the best mood getting out of the elevator from my presentation that I had. So I think that self-talk that you talk about is so important. You have to be your biggest fan, your biggest advocate, and you can't have those negative thoughts going through your head.
Yeah. No one's going to advocate for you like you can. Like, that's the truth. It's like, no one knows all the things that you do behind the scenes. No one understands all the work that you are putting in, the hours, or, you know what I mean? So you have to be your biggest fan, because if you're not, who is? Like, that's the thing. I love that. Okay. So we have a tradition at Moxie, and we're not skipping it this year. We are going to do a rapid fire, 3 questions, our signature Moxie questions, 1 answer each, no overthinking. And these are the things that fuel your Moxie. So I want everyone to answer. So we'll start with number 1. What would be your theme song for work? We'll start with Nikisha.
Golden by Jill Scott, because growth, freedom, and confidence aren't destinations. They're choices we make every day.
Oh, I love that. All right. How about you, Kara?
Unstoppable by Sia. Not because everything is easy, because it's about that quiet resilience and stay grounded and continue to move forward even when the path isn't obvious.
Love that. Heather?
Mine's Whatever It Takes by Imagine Dragons. And I like the beat, obviously, but I like resilience, like that warrior mindset. And
So for me, I don't know if you all know this song. It's a Florence and the Machine song. It's kind of a deeper cut, but it's called King, and it's just about like this kind of unrelenting like belief in yourself. And it's my pump up song. I literally listen to it when I'm going to any prospect meeting, and I feel like I'm just an absolute like warrior. So yeah. All right, number two,
Love
what is your mantra or pep talk? So why don't we start with Heather, since you are the queen of good self-talk.
So there's normally a lot going on at once.
Yeah.
So for me, it's one thing at a time. One
Mm.
one thing at a time, because otherwise I'm spread in too many different directions and I get nothing done or a little piece of everything, right? So
Love that. Kara?
We can figure it out. There's nothing that you
I like
can't
that.
figure it out if you don't take a moment, take a deep breath, and understand the landscape. You can figure everything out.
Yep.
Nakisha?
I bring value, perspective, and leadership with me.
Good. For me, it would be I can do anything I put my mind to. I shared with you all, when I was training for the marathon, I was like, wow, I really like some of these runs I went on were so long, and I was like, wow, I really can do anything I put my mind to. So I've just, anytime I face a challenge, I think like you can do it. You put anything you put your mind to.
Yep.
Okay, and then the last question, fill in the blank. It makes my day when. Let's start with Heather.
Yeah, so it makes my day when someone tells me that someone on my team did a good job. Just that they were able to be helpful, that they're always responsive. That always makes my day, because then I get, not only do I feel good when they say that, because it's a reflection of our team, but I get to go back and tell the person that people are talking nice about them and that they're doing a great job and make their day.
Yes, because you love giving kudos. So
Yeah,
it's a double
yes.
whammy for you.
It is.
Love that. Kara?
Makes my day when my coffee hits before my inbox does. Tying it all back to coffee, but when I'm ready for the day, and I can control the start of my day, it really puts me in the right perspective and puts me productive.
Oh, that's good. Yeah, that's a good way to start the day for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Nakisha, makes your day when?
I see someone that I have either mentored or works for me, supported, steps into their power, and realize that they were ready all along.
Oh, yeah, that
Yeah.
does feel good.
Yes.
Yeah.
I agree with all of you. Actually, mine's similar, but it's actually about my kids. I would say it makes my day when I get a compliment about one of my kids doing something that makes me proud, like whether it's being a good friend or being a good teammate or having good manners, like those things are so important to me.
Yeah.
And when I get a compliment on one of them, I'm like, ooh, that makes me feel good. So
Because that's a reflection on you. And I
it
think we all
is.
like
And
we
now,
all like to feel that somebody's recognizing us or the effort that we put in, that quiet effort. Sometimes it is nice to have somebody recognize that.
Yeah. And not to make it all about me, but it really does make me just so proud.
oh
So,
yeah, I agree. Same.
Yeah.
Well, thank you all so much for the time today and sharing what fuels your moxie and making this conversation so impactful. I personally feel like I learned a lot today, and it was really inspiring to just get to know you better. And I hope we can continue learning together and pushing women forward in this workforce and bringing this kind of passion to our individual companies. And I know I'm going to continue to push for this moxie, in my own life. So just recapping some of the things that we heard from you. You don't have to be ready to be perfect. You just have to be willing to work hard and be curious. Sometimes the biggest risk is just standing still and be confident. You've earned your seat at the table, and somebody saw something in you to make you make your voice heard. So don't forget that, and really lean into those opportunities as they come along. So just a quick reminder, Moxie is a year-round community. We've got virtual events, local chapters, and conversations like this one all year long. If you haven't already joined, please do. Visit www.hubinternational.com/Moxie and click Join Moxie to hear more of these conversations. Today, you heard from 3 women who chose to lead fearlessly, and that same spirit is in you. Take it with you, keep breaking boundaries, and keep leaning in with Moxie. Thank you all for joining us today, and to our panel of rebels and go-getters, job well done. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mary and Hub.